Andariki namaskaramulu. Today is another good day for all of us that we are going to have a webinar from a guest lecturer. He is not a guest, as almost a host for all of us, because he has given many webinars previously, and also 2 weeks back he has given a webinar to us on Sanatana Dharma. Now he is going to now talk about research methodologies, old modern era, how do they test with each other, compatible with each other. Now we will start the webinar with Vande Mataram and then Prarthana. Now I request Satyam Reddy Garu to recite Vande Mataram, please.
Sir. Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Sujalam Supalam, Malayaja Sitalam, Sasya Shamalam Mataram, Vande Mataram, Suprasjosna Pulakitayaminim, Pullakusuma Drumadala Sobinim, Suhasinim, Sumadura Basinim, Sukadam Varadam Mataram, Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram.
Vande Mataram.
Vande
ధన్యవాదములండి సత్యనారాయణ రెడ్డి గారు.
Sir, thanks.
ధన్యవాదములు. Now I request HP Rao garu to chant Prarthana, please.
Hari Om. Sarvebhya Swagatam Vyaharami. Adya Achan Subhadhanamasti. Pradhamam Dhyanam. Ekanimisham Dhyanam. Trivaram Omkaram. Tadanantaram Prarthana. Kurma. Gananantva Ganapati Bhavamahe Kavin Kavinaupavasravastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanan Brahmanaspada Anasrunvannota Sadanam Om Mahaganadhipataye Namaha Prano Devi Saraswati Vajevirvajinivati Dhinamavitriyavatu Om Mahasaraswatye Namaha Hari Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Namaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mruchorma Amrutangamaya Om Shanti 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 Matrudevo Bhava Pitrudevo Bhava Acharya Devo Bhava Atithi Devo Bhava Om Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Hari Om Karmanyevadhikarasте ma phaleshu kadachana ma karmapalahetu mato sangostva karmani Hari Om. Ajja Srinivasa Sastry garu namaskaram. Malladi Srinivasa Sastry garu swagatam vyaharami.
Namaskaram Mhodaya, ధన్యవాదాः.
Babu.
Okay, thank you HP Rao garu. Now I will introduce Dr. Malladi Srinivasa Sastry garu. Though he is known to all of us, and also I have already introduced him to all of you 2 weeks back, but nevertheless, for the people who are coming new, I will briefly introduce him to all of you, and it is my privilege and a pleasure to introduce Dr. Malladi Srinivasa Sastry garu. He is a practicing psychiatrist with work experience in UK, Singapore, and India. Dr. Malladi is a Karyakarta of Samskrita Bharati, which is an organization that teaches Sanskrit. He conducts spoken Sanskrit workshops and also teaches the 4-level exam-oriented course of Samskrita Bharati. Dr. Malladi is the founder of Soham Vidya, which is a platform to impart the spiritual knowledge for holistic wellness and social welfare, NGO based on principles of Sanatana Dharma called Hindu Mitra Seva Foundation. He has been researching on application of ancient spiritual knowledge in daily life and designed course such as Discover Yourself, Discover Your Inner Potential, etc. He had conducted several webinars on Bring Out the Best in You, the Sanatana Dharma Way, and range of topics. He has MA in Sanskritam from Andhra University, Visakhapatnam, and had completed the course and gold medal at the gold medal level of the year-long course on memorization and pronunciation of Bhagavad Gita slokas conducted by Sri Dattapitham of Mysore. So it is again a pleasure to have introduced our speaker, Dr. Malladi Srinivasa Sastry garu, and let us all welcome him for this webinar and request him to start the webinar, please.
Right, thank you so much, Babu Mahodaya and Sri Prabhakar garu. I'm actually quite honored and delighted to be here with the Veda Samskruti Samiti. I find this platform one of those kind of genuine efforts for the spread of the beauty of Sanatana Dharma. And I find the participants very receptive to learning. I think it's a hallmark of practice of Sanatana Dharma. So I'm really kind of delighted to be here again. So I'm going to talk about today's topic is research methods of ancient India, and can they meet the modern world standards? I think there's a mistake there. It should be modern world standards. So why is this topic important? I think I'll be hoping to kind of make it as clear as possible in terms of where do we stand in understanding research. So this talk may sound a little technical to begin with, so please bear with me. I'll try and explain a few things for those who do not come from a science background or a research background. I'm not going to details of science, but certainly some research terminology will need to be discussed to begin with. So as I was kindly introduced, I am a psychiatrist by profession, and therefore I will be coming into this talk from a medical point of view, where I have been involved in some amount of research during my career. In Soham Vidya, the perspective we like to bring is we want to be objective in appraising the scope of a topic. And for that, a systemic inquiry method and a scientific temperament is always required. We don't want to be dogmatic, and we want to be as evidence-based as possible. And so that's always a benchmark we would like to set for ourselves. However, whatever we appraise should be locally relevant as well, and it could be global learnings. And we are not kind of new to that idea, because in Rigveda, Ano Badra Kratava Yanta Vishwataha, when it says that we should be open to learn from all directions, it's already there. But I think one of the dangers of modern times is that in this race to be globalized, we are uprooting ourselves, or we are forgetting where we belong to and what is relevant to our soil, our climate, our own linguistic kind of peculiarities, or our own cultural kind of peculiarities. We shouldn't be letting go of those things, because there is a reason why they are there, and they are there because time immemorial they have found a place and continue to exist because they offer value to humanity. So therefore, I say it to any part of the world, I think a lot of cultures have vanished over a period of time, and that's not great news at all. But we need to appreciate that native wisdom, there's something called as a native wisdom and native application of that wisdom for the citizens who live in that part of the world. Nevertheless, it is a global world, there's no doubt about it. So we are learning from everywhere, and we should continue to do that, but also at the same time be objective to apply that locally. And we want to be very decisive and clear in our messaging, so that there is no kind of hodgepodge, or have that level of clarity in decision making as well. Now, again, unfortunately, global often tends to become Western thought alone, and we want to break those kind of barriers in appraising information. Global literally should really mean Eastern and Western, particularly when we say Eastern, we should be thankful for the rich kind of knowledge systems that we have had throughout the dharmic traditions. And as I said already, global native wisdom, and it could be whether it's from Australian or African, it doesn't matter wherever it comes from. So we want to value native wisdom. So global should technically mean all this, but we somehow ended up equating it to the Western framework of understanding and appraising information. So today's topic being the ancient Indian methods of research, and do they actually kind of meet the requirements of the modern scientific methodologies. So I'm going to break this topic into 4 sections. So one, I'm going to just give you an idea of what modern methods of research look like. Second, we need to define what truth is, and who are keen to research truth, and what are the hindrances to research truth. Third would be ancient Indian methods of research. Now here, I'm not going to claim to be an expert on perhaps some of the more ancient scientific methods of research, but I will be putting across what I have come across rather than claiming to be an expert on all the matters of ancient research. And fourth would be that what are the characteristics of a society which is driven by research and development? So if there is a society which actually kind of values research and development, what does it look like? As opposed to a society which does not value research, what does that society look like? And can you think of any such society or civilization which has maintained the continuum of research through time? Needless to say, I think we are referring to India here, or Bharat, and I would make a case that we have had the continuum from ancient times till now without a single break. Okay, if at all there is a society, and that is Bharat alone. So as being true to the structure of our topic, the first point is about just giving an idea of what modern research looks like. So let's come from a medical, because I'm coming from a medical background. So research is anything about understanding a particular, taking up a particular topic and doing some background literature search, going through journals, looking for any past publications on the same topic, and then discussing with a guide or your professor or your research team, and then understanding what methodology should be used, what's the number of subjects we need in that research, and do we need to call it? We look at statistics. And then once this is all done, we would be publishing this particular research. Sorry, am I audible? I didn't check.
Yes, you are audible. There is a little bit of interruption, but nevertheless, please go ahead.
Okay, right. Thank you. Just let me know if there is any issue. Okay. So then, yeah, so we then look at statistics, and then we publish, right? So we publish the research in peer review journals, as they are called, and then also present in conferences. And then after that, there is a critical appraisal as to how valuable that particular research is and whether more research needs to be done. This is how it goes around. So some of the terms we are using: control trials and cohort studies, case control studies, meta-analysis, systematic reviews. Now, these are very robust. Some of them are very robust ways to do research. And they are very much kind of valued. If this is a method that is utilized, people actually look up to that particular study, provided there is something called as a significant power of the sample, which means the larger the number of subjects that have been researched, the better the confidence interval. So the better I have confidence in the results, and therefore much better the accuracy of the results. So this is how it works. And there are other ways to kind of also make it as robust as possible. One is called as randomization, which means that as a researcher, I don't know which subjects are being tested upon, because if I know, then I may be biased in how I lead the research. So there is blinding, there is randomization. So modern research methodologies are pretty good in that sense. They are as good as you can kind of work with to make research meaningful, valid, and applicable. Once the findings are kind of there, they are applicable to a large extent. Yeah. So I hope I have been able to give you an understanding of how modern research kind of broadly kind of looks like. And we have a hierarchy as to what kind of research methodology is efficient and what is less efficient. So in this hierarchy, if you look at the pyramid, the bottom of the pyramid is where we value less. And the top of the pyramid, the systematic reviews, they are valued the most. Those are most respected. So you have background information or expert opinion. Although it's called expert opinion, the reason why it is not as valuable as systematic reviews is because expert opinion only comes from one person. But we respect the wisdom in it because this comes from somebody who has seen the world and is able to kind of bring in the wisdom to make his remarks. But why is it not so much respected as much as a systematic review? It's because this individual is a possibility that he could bring his own biases. Okay, so there is a problem there. So that is how we need to understand. Although it is a wise man's word, it may not necessarily be as robust as having tested on several individuals. So the hierarchy goes case control studies, cohort, randomized control studies, and so on and so forth. All right, so this is as good as we can understand about modern research. Now the question for us is it even possible that such methodology or even a semblance of it existed in ancient times? What do you think? What do you all think? Is it possible that this level of research even existed in ancient times? Let's talk about ancient India or wherever in the world. Do you think anybody thinks that this level of research ever existed before, or is this a modern kind of a unique manifestation?
Yes, it existed.
All right. Would you be able to give me an idea? What are you referring to when you say it existed?
Particularly, all rishis used to assemble together, and they used to first gather information. They used to analyze it, and they used to come to conclusion. If they had some questions, they used to question and answers, and then they verified, and all verified things only have been put forward. And then they have all Vedas, all textbooks, Samhitas, and all these things, they have come through that discussions only, research work only.
And who is this? Sorry, who was saying this? Sorry, I didn't get your name.
He is Dr. Krishnamurthy Garu.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much for your words. Great. Okay. And would you or anybody be able to identify any particular work done by a rishi or done as part of a particular shastra, which has a similar kind of a structure, somewhat similar at least? Is there a possibility for us to refer?
All Samhitas. All Samhitas
All
are
the
there.
Samhitas.
And they are only out of discussion and thorough discussion only they have come up.
Okay.
Mainly Upanishads.
Upanishads also.
And
Upanishads
Puranas.
also, Puranas, and all these things. Whatever we call ancient literature, all literatures, they have been thoroughly done.
Okay. All right.
Ramayana itself has
Even
started
our daily panchangams and the daily calendar work, everything is been framed properly.
Okay. All right. Good to hear these views. That's excellent. Thank you.
Of late, it is not done, but I expect that it would have been continued till the universities were existing in the country.
Yes. Yeah.
Thereafter, probably they must have been
Nalanda
deteriorated. Till that time, that practice was going on. As long as the university system of education was existing in the country, that system of work, what we are envisaging here, modern way, maybe in a different terminology, is available. If we talk about the Ichwaku line and Suryavansha and Chandravansha also, all those Rajas used to go to Saptarishi Sabha. Whenever they get a doubt, they go to Saptarishi Sabha and get an advice, discuss with them the problems of the country, and get the Dharma Sandeham, get the solution from the Dharma Sandeham. Then only they used to tackle the problem in the country. So that's how the things were being done.
All right, great. And who is this? Sorry, who was speaking now? Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I think those are wonderful points as well. I'm so pleased to hear these remarks. Yeah. And we have in the chat, somebody says Ramayana started with a question and then further analyzation. Can you elaborate in your words, please? Can you speak out and let me know what you mean by that?
So the entire Kavya of Ramayana, right, it started off with a question that we know, right? Tapasatvaya Nitisham. That is the first sloka, which has basically started, right? That is typically in Valmiki's mind. He was just thinking that is there any humankind who has the 16 qualities that he has mentioned about it with Narada, right? That's all started off with the thinking that is there anybody existing like that? Then Narada comes in and then he talks about the Sankshipta Ramayana, and then Brahma comes in and he gives him the wisdom to really he will be able to analyze the things once he closes his eyes and does the Achaman kind of a thing, and then he will get all the things in his mind. So that's how he has created that entire Ramayana, the biography of Rama, right? Which has already happened by the time. So until Yuddha Kanda, it was all the previous. That's a flashback, typically what we call it as. And after that, Uttarakanda is typically as a parallel one, what we could say. So in that way, the critical examination was involved in that, in creating that Ramayana, and a great research which went on, because on how it happened, how Rama has lived as part of Dharma, that is typically through his thinking and the research, what he has done by going through the journey of Rama into different places, and then 14 years of exile, how he has lived and what has happened. And if you look at it, also has the geographical things which Sugriva explains. So these are all various research methodologies.
And one more thing I want to add in Ramayana is, in modern system of project management.
Exactly.
In modern system of project management, what we do is we make a key model of the project.
Right.
And that concept has been originally available in Ramayana.
Right. If you look at entire
Ramayana Katha has been told in first itself, in the beginning itself. And that has been explained in a detailed manner in six kandas. So that modeling system is there at the time itself.
Okay, great.
And
thank you.
If you take the Bhagavad Gita, if you take the other places also, they're all question answer sessions only, everywhere.
Mahodaya,
Yes.
Suresh Babu from Surat. Even mana Jagadguru Shankaracharya varu ప్రశ్నోత్తర కార్యక్రమం అని చెప్పి ఒకటి పెట్టారు. ఇప్పుడు nowadays frequently asked questions అనే వస్తుంటాయి. జగద్గురు శంకరాచార్యులు గారు ఆయనంతటే ఆయన ఏ ప్రశ్న అయితే వస్తుందో ఆలోచించి దానికి జవాబు కూడా ఆది శంకరాచార్యులు గారు ఇచ్చారు. అంటే అంత ఇదిగా ఆలోచించి. So nowadays we are just asking frequently asked questions అని.
Yes, that's what Viveka Chodamani or not even, if you take the Yoga Vasishtam. Yoga Vasishtam is samvadam between Rama and Vasishta. It is question answer session only. And Rama is not a small man, and Vasishta is also not small man, not ignorant people. And both are discussing and bringing out a knowledge out of it. So that's
great. Thank you so much. I think this is a valuable discussion. So then we need to differentiate. There are two aspects to it. One is a systematic method of inquiry. That is what I think we were hearing about Ramayana. It's not particularly a research as such. It's not research on number of individuals or a topic, but it surely is a systematic method of inquiry, and that's something which we need to keep in mind here, which is very much possible only when the atmosphere of research exists at a particular time. Okay, we seem to have a lot more interest on this topic. Pantula Ravindra Garu, please go ahead.
Sir, namaskar. Sir, one important thing about I feel is, పూర్వకాలంలో ఈ చంద్రగ్రహణం అని తర్వాత పంచాంగం రాయడము అది బాగా విశిష్టమైన మన ఋషులంతా ఏర్పడింది. ఈ కాలంలో కూడా ఈవెన్ రీసెంట్ గా చంద్రయాన్ ప్రయోగం చేసినప్పుడు కూడా ఆ పీరియడ్ లో అక్కడ మనం వర్కౌట్ చేయలేదని సైంటిఫిక్ గా ఇప్పుడు వాళ్ళు ఫాలో అయితే ఇది చేస్తున్నారు. ఇప్పుడు పంచాంగం కూడా మనం పంచాంగం క్యాలెండర్ లో అన్ని స్టడీ చేసినట్లయితే ఏన్షియంట్ మెథడ్ వాట్ వీ హావ్ ఫాలోడ్ ఇస్ స్టిల్ ఎగ్జిస్టింగ్ నౌ-a-days ఆల్సో.
Okay, all right, that's great, thank you. Okay, fine, let's move ahead then. It's great to have this level of discussion. Okay. I think it is safe to say that
one thing Srinivasa Sastry garu, in reference to Panchangam, it was good last 20 years back, or as the last generation Pandits were there.
Okay.
As of late, I find the Panchangams are doing mistakes. And the recent people, they don't have the sufficient knowledge to make the correct calculations or the stamina or the patience to correct the mistakes of typographical or whatever it is, or research wise. And some mistakes are happening in Panchangams. That is a regrettable point that it should be brought to the light of the people so that that can be corrected in future. That's why I brought that point.
That's great. I think should we then
basing on computer.
Sorry, just a minute, please. Should we then, Prabhakar Garu, should we in that case actually take up a project to study this and start making those corrections? Because if Veda Samskruti Samiti is actually able to do that, I think it'll do a lot of
Yeah, that
justice.
needs a team of people for doing that, and we will got the knowledge on those shastras.
Yeah.
And I find some people are such as we are having one lady, PPT Sundari, who is a retired postmaster doing research on these topics and started writing the Panchangam also. I find she doing a relative study on this and writing Panchanga herself. So that type of candidate should come up and start writing in a very sincere fashion instead of copy pasting the last year Panchangams.
And we should reward those kind of people as well.
We should encourage those people and form a research team for that purpose.
Yeah.
Our aim is that Veda Samskruti has got an aim of research and doing according to the fourth aim is that only. Our fourth aim is that only.
Yeah.
Dharma Shastras, modifying Dharma Shastras and the other things akin to the modern times.
Yeah.
So that's the fourth aim of our this thing, but that needs a lot of efforts and a lot of stamina and voluntary work.
We need
which is still I'm looking for.
Yeah. Okay.
Sir,
yeah.
In research, the first point is we have to define the problem. Once the problem is defined, then half of the research is deemed to have been completed. Then only the procedures, how to do it, how it has to be analytically solved, those things will come in the way. Finally, after we will do some statistical analysis, whether it stands the test of some regression and all these things, we will check it and finally we will come to the conclusion. Is it in the same way our universities in Sanskrit are conducting the research, or in any other way they are doing as of today?
Okay, so
it's a good
question,
right?
Point.
It's a good point. In this connection,
yes.
I would like to add here.
Yeah.
So finding out the present problem, that excellent job has been done by Rajiv Malhotra. And what is the present problem of the society? What Bharat is facing the trouble, and what are the forces acting against it or for it, and what is to be done to some extent also has been analyzed by him, and he has done excellent books. Books he has written already, explaining the present problems. And those books are to be properly studied and consolidated, and problems are to be brought to the floor to all the people. Rajiv Malhotra works is the one of the topic in that line.
Okay. Yeah, that was a great question. Thank you. I think if I also understand your question slightly differently, the research includes statistical analysis, regression models, and such kind, and that is applicable for data that is accumulated, which can be measured, and is it possible in research through Department of Sanskrit or through Sanskrit studies or through ancient topics that we normally hear about when we associate ancient India, does it apply in the same fashion that data analysis can be done? Is possibly what you're referring to? Is that your question?
In the same way, research is going on in our Sanskrit universities. Is it
now for ancient? Fair enough. We will look at it. So here, I'm kind of it's timely. Your question is timely in that sense. how do we appraise truth?
టెక్నాలజీని ఎట్లా ఇంప్లిమెంట్ చేస్తున్నారు, ఏం చేస్తున్నారు?
Okay, how do we appraise truth? How do we,
Yes.
first of all, how do we define truth? My question would be, how do we define truth? Can somebody come up with a definition of truth? What do you mean by truth? Because ultimately research is, we are trying to find something which is true. We're not interested in falsities.
ఇది పంపించుకోండి మీరు.
So in
truth
this
ante
case,
ippudu
truth is
sir, excuse me.
problem identified.
Okay.
Truth is the research item.
Okay, now Jen, let's just step out a bit. It doesn't have to be a process. How do you define truth? What is your understanding of the concept of truth?
Yes.
Sir, this is Kumar. Truth, I feel truth is a dynamic situation and may not be defined now, which suits for all the situations.
So it should suit all the situations?
Yeah, it is a dynamic. Truth is, today it is truth, tomorrow it may deviate.
Sir, this is Chakrapani.
Such a situation.
So if it is truth today and if it is a lie tomorrow, how can it be truth?
Maybe I'm not able to explain you well, but I feel it is a dynamic. Truth
okay,
is
anyway,
dynamic.
according to you, you define truth to be something which changes as per time and situation. Okay, fine, you will leave that aside. That is your definition. Okay, how else would others define truth?
Truth has to be experienced.
This is Vijay here from Bangalore.
Okay.
I think truth is something which will never change. It will stand the test of time, situation, whatever it is. It will remain, again, it will remain true forever. That's what I feel is the truth.
All right. Okay. So
in my opinion,
truth has to be experienced, sir, unlike philosophy. Philosophy means that is love of knowledge. So whereas truth is to be experienced, like that is a speciality of Bharatiya Darshan.
Yes.
Okay, so when you say truth has to be experienced, how do we experience truth?
By experimenting, sir. By experimenting on the tools given by the rishis.
So the tools given by the rishis. Okay, well, I think you need to be more specific. When you say tools,
for example, for example, if I like in Western philosophy, they mostly they think about the truth and they read about truth. But here in our ancient Bharat, people have been experimenting on like yoga and dhyana tools given by the rishis.
I think it's still not specific. I know what you're trying to refer to, but I think it's still not specific enough. But you are on the right track.
For example, I want to experience myself. I want to know myself. I need to do dhyana. I need to do yoga or the tools given by whatever tools given by the rishis. Like there are proven tools are there, tools and techniques. So if I do experiments on those, so there will be possibility to succeed in that.
Okay, in that case, what you're referring to is you are finding your truth. What you discover may not be discovered by another person. Am I right in saying so?
Yeah, what I experience is it will be up to me only. Everybody needs
to
experience. Everybody needs to do experiment and experience. It cannot be given blindly given to others.
Great. So we call it subjective then, right? It's a subjective experience.
Sir, truth is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
So it is a subjective experience. And what would an objective experience be? So that would be another thing to think about. Yes, please go ahead.
Truth is a fact. It is witnessed by a fact, sir.
Sorry, truth is what?
Witnessed by a fact.
Okay, so it has to be a fact. It has to be witnessed, as an eye has to see it, ear has to listen to it, and it has to be measured, is what you're saying as truth. Okay, fair enough. And next, who is going?
One more concept. In general, we used to call it truth is nothing but a dharma. Dharma will not be altered, but law can be altered according to the on the days where we are living. According to the situation, the law can be changed, but dharma, truth cannot be altered at any point of time. That is the truth. In my opinion, I think I am also correct.
Somebody has rightly mentioned dharma is different from satya. So we're talking about satya here, the truth. Okay, Rajagopalan Iyengarji, please go ahead.
Namo Namaha. Shruitava?
Yeah, Shruitava.
See, basically, I will tell myself, I am Rajgopalan. I served Government of India, Department of Energy as a recent R&D scientist for last 37 years, and now preaching, teaching Veda, Vedanga, and all those things. Okay, wonderful. Very nicely, you have started the topic. As far as the truth is concerned, in two ways we can think it. One is as a spiritual person from Veda, Vedanga, and say another as a R&D scientist from space and atomic energy.
Yeah.
When we go with the scientific approach, the logic and reasoning is always taken care of.
Yeah.
When we go by the law, since I will talk because I'm a applied mathematics, higher mathematics student, so I will say that topology and other things you would have studied, wherein we always interpret with respect to the logic tables.
Yeah.
So wherein the truth is being taken with the complex statements, whether if it is a singular statement, there's no problem. For example, I will give you a very simple example which can be understood by everybody very easily. Logically, science says that Major General rules the army, Major General's wife rules the major. So logic-wise, science says that Major General's wife can rule the army, but which is false. But logically, it is correct. That is what the science goes. Whereas in spirituality, with spiritual world, when we go, compared to dharma is different, satya is different. There are different aspects of satya is there. Satya, when you talk about, that is called as sthana satya, karmika satya, sharira satya, vyavaharika satya. Like that, when you go into the satya, means it is actually nothing but as per the situation. Given situation means what we call in science is that the coordinate system, we say x, y, z and time plane. In the same way, as per the time and zone and everything, the satya's definition changes as per the zone. That is why they say that even if Krishna also says that it is a satya, even if you say that Ashwatthama is dead. So that type of logic goes into our philosophy. What I want to say that as far as the narrowing the truths for analyzing the subjects, because I am a student of artificial intelligence and applications, especially on different aspects, complicated variables. So what if we go by the research, when we say that there are two distinct methods will go, two distinct. One is extent competing, one is called competing methods, the symbolic, that is called as top-down approach. The another one is called as a connectionist approach, that is bottom-up approach. So the top-down approach, when we first seek it, it is a replicate intelligence by analyzing the cognition independent of the structures, means how we think out and all those things, mainly with the structure of the brain and in terms of the processing of the symbols, hence the symbolic model. Okay. So in Sanskrit, what we do as an artificial intelligence person, when we are doing the language processing for the Bhagavad Gita, I was associated with Professor Amba Kulkarni from the HCU and IIT Roorkee and others. We have done some good work. So what it goes that we go with the symbolification. So if these grammar wise, this follows this one, then this should go with this meaning. Think it is like this. So why I'm
I can say that it's a little
complicated.
Quite complicated, yes. So
it's not that simple.
We'll possibly need to spare some time to understand this.
Satya cannot be defined so simply by one unique definition.
Sure, understand.
So we should have a variable. It has got a variability, but at the same time, just like in computer programming, we put certain variables, global constants, as well as we put it as a localized constants. So this as a local variable, local constant, it is used for a given area, whereas on a global level, it becomes a variable constant.
Okay.
So this is how we have to analyze.
Is it fair to just simplify to say Laukika Satya and Alaukika Satya?
Absolutely. Materialism is different.
Yeah, we'll keep to that.
See, the Satya for a Brahmana Varna is something different. Satya for a Kshatriya Varna is different. Satya for a Rajas. So Laukikam, when we bring in, so we have to think into the guna Sat, and at the same time we have to say Rajas as well as Tamas.
As I said,
and
we will
Purushartham
talk
has to be
about,
taken into account. All these things will come into that.
I think it's a fascinating topic. We'll possibly talk about it another time if I have your permission. We'll get back onto the presentation. But yeah, thank you all for sharing your thoughts. I think the point I was trying to make here is, in research, we are only interested in establishing truth. And as a lot of you have nicely defined, there are two ways to understand truth. But when we look at from a spiritual point of view, the truth is understood to be that constant, it never changes, whether it's according to time or place, and it's everlasting. It has no beginning, no end. It can't be manipulated, as in Bhagavad Gita, you hear it. Achedyoyam adahyoyam. It can't be altered, manipulated, edited. It can't be destroyed. And it is independent of the avasthas, and it is independent of your emotional state. So if that is the case, I think this kind of truth is not going to be measurable, right? It is not measurable. Whereas the truth that we are referring to from a Laukika point of view is a measurable truth. So therefore, we can safely say there are two concepts here. One is objective truth and one is the subjective truth. And one of the earlier speakers has very nicely elucidated to the rishis, giving us the tools where we need to kind of appraise it ourselves. And that's the subjective truth. Now let's look at the two things. Both are explorative in nature. Both are research oriented. So one is research oriented in the sense that we are making measurements, we are collecting data externally and appraising the truth that is outside us. The other is experimenting or researching on the truth inside me. And it could be as simple as knowing who I am as Srinivas. What am I made of? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What is my emotional state generally like in certain situations? Where can I improve myself? That is also subjective truth. I'm experimenting, or I'm researching on myself. But we are going further deep, right? In spiritual research, it is about me wanting to know who this Atman is, or the Sat as such is, the constant in me. And that is also an inward journey of finding my truth. Now, the problems we will look at for both. The facts-based, measurable validation and outward exploration is what we generally nowadays associate with science. Okay, and this meets the senses. So indriya gocharam. So it is actually kind of perceived by the senses and the mind and is measurable. Whereas the subjective sat is agochara. It is beyond the senses. Now, the understanding of truth, therefore, is poles apart. And if it is poles apart and both are research oriented, my only concern is, does the objective science community, does it, from a conceptual point of view, appreciate and respect the subjective truth community? I don't think so. And that's where the problem lies. Whereas the subjective truth community very much accepts and understands the objective truth community's approach, because that is here and now, and you can see it, sense it. If we do not accept space for these two, research is incomplete. if there isn't space for these two to exist together, and if only the objective truth community wants to claim the kind of the authority that we are the only true representatives of research, then I think a lot of wisdom will be lost, or experience through kind of innate kind of inward research will be missed. Okay, so I'm hoping that I'm able to make sense here, where there should be, in this global kind of community right now where we should be providing that atmosphere where both forms of research coexist happily together, as long as there is a methodology involved in it. Now, I have actually explained what the methodology for objective truth is in the first few slides itself, and I've explained to you how robust it is. It is our job to come up with a methodology as robust as it can be for subjective truth experiment or experience as well. If we do not have that structure, then I do not see any reason why people call it pseudoscience. And that is not what we want to be tagged with. It cannot be tagged as a pseudoscience anymore, but the responsibility is on those who experience or explore subjective truth. The responsibility is on them to define what it is and also come up with the methodologies that can actually allow it to bring back the required respect and for it to flourish. Okay, so this is where we need to understand these two.
Srinivasa,
yeah.
We are already having Mimamsa Siddhantam, right?
Hmm.
The Mimamsa Siddhantam is our logical thinking and finding out the truth and finding out the Pramanam. And that is the basic Shastra for us, for our culture.
Yeah.
So we cannot say that we don't have. We have got a excellent, and Mimamsa Shastram is an excellent Shastram which talks about these things, and even the Supreme Court is taking shelter under the Mimamsa Shastra nowadays.
I may have been not been able to explain myself well. I didn't mean that. I think what I meant is there is always going to be a constant requirement for those who describe truth from a cosmic point of view. It is, and because it cannot be perceived by senses and it cannot be measured, the onus is a lot more on that community to keep or come with systematic methods. And today's topic is about whether we had such systems available in the past or not. And I will try and do my part in seeing whether there are certain links that I can see. I'm not saying that they didn't exist. I'm actually going to make a case that they existed. Of course, I agree with what you're saying. My challenge is the reason why also we need to talk about this topic is the relevance in modern times. I'm more interested in how do we make things relevant in modern times. And if we had a heritage of ancient Indian methodologies of research, are they applicable in the current climate? That is something we have to look at. And if they are applicable, why are they not being practiced is the second thing that we need to look at. And if they are not being practiced, how do we bring them back to practice is the third thing we need to look at. Okay, so I'll try and see if I can make case through my slides as we go along now onwards. So So there was fact-based research as well in the past. For instance, Charvaka or Lokayata, they actually, among the various pramanas, so we have various pramanas. Pramanas are obviously methods to kind of appraise information or reach truth. So they understood that perhaps we will only regard what is experienced with the senses and mind as truth. Everything else for is garbage. We are not interested. We are not interested if you say that Vedas have proclaimed this. We are not interested if you make an anumana, an inference. We are not interested in any of those. For us, what matters is, have you seen it? If you have seen it, then it is true. Have you heard it? If we have heard it, it is true. Otherwise, we are not interested. एतावानेव लोकोऽयं यावान् इन्द्रियगोचरः भद्रे वृकपदं पश्य यद्वदन्ति बहुश्रुताः. So in reference to the Charvaka, the Charvakas actually kind of give this nice example. He's basically saying, one, truth, it has to be indriya gochara. It has to be understood by the senses. Now the second, I give you an example. He says, I'm going to go to the outskirts of the village and I'll make an impression of a wolf's footprints. And I'm going to kind of come back. The next day itself, there will be people curiously looking at it. Oh, a wolf has come. And then they will be, and this exactly happens. So then that guy goes to tell somebody else that a wolf has come and eaten somebody, attacked somebody, and so on. So the word goes like that. So the point he tries to make is that these people have not seen it, and look at the fallacies that they have come up with. When it is not witnessed, look at the amount of dogma that comes out. Look at the amount of falsities that it is creating. So how do we trust any other tools which are not therefore direct sensory perception? And that's a very valid point he makes. Okay, so Charvaka has its place in terms of keeping us grounded, where when it comes to Laukika experience, we shouldn't just be falling into the trap of making out something out of nothing. Okay, so this is where they meet. Charvakas actually meet modern objective evidence-based kind of science. In Ramayana as well, I have come across a shloka which says this: Sanasti paramitheva kuru buddhim mahamate pratyaksham yattadatishta paroksham prishtatah kuru. So, oh, high-minded one, thinking that the next world does not exist, practice whichever is evident and perceivable, and turn your back on what is beyond perception. So here also we see a Vada, which basically is fact-based, and they wouldn't want to kind of entertain what is not fact. This is a school of appraisal of truth. Okay, I'll come to take points later on if it's okay. We'll just, Venkatji, I'll come to you later. But what are the limitations or the benefits of fact-based inquiries? The problems, the limitations, and
here, Srinivasji,
sorry,
the logic what you're learning, coming out, bringing out as Charvaka and all these things is well taken. But I get a doubt here at this point.
Okay.
As a as a person, when I am seeing with Indriyas and other things, the logic I find, the solution I find for a particular problem sometimes differs with my internal consciousness. You're a psychiatrist, you must be able to assimilate it better.
Yeah.
My internal consciousness sometimes differs with what the facts that are before me giving a solution. That solution, I don't agree. My internal consciousness doesn't agree. What do you call that?
Well, that's exactly the slide here. So we need to look at, understand, as I said, the topic has not completed. We are halfway through.
Yeah.
So I have presented to you the link between current day objective research and with which kind of connects with the Lokayata or the Charvaka Siddhanta, because they are also fact-based kind of, they're very interested in fact-based appraisal. Now, so the slide right now is what are the limitations of fact-based inquiries alone, or what are the benefits of fact-based inquiries? So fact-based inquiries are naturally, therefore, they're going to kind of give you truth that is perceivable. Like we all know the beautiful story of an elephant and the blindfolded children. So the blindfolded children, when they are told to go and touch the new animal that they have never come across, and one chap who actually holds the trunk says, "Oh, elephant is actually that soft thing which is moving here and there. It's a squishy thing." Another one who holds the leg, he says, "Oh, elephant is like a tree trunk." And then another guy who holds the tusk says, "Oh, elephant is like a short, sharp, pointed object like a sword." For them, it is a fact-based inquiry that led them to that kind of conclusion, because they were blindfolded. So they were using only the other senses. But only after the blindfold is removed that they see that what they have understood initially was only part of the whole truth. So these are limitations of fact-based inquiry. Similarly, for instance, this lady who is on the horse, she's actually, let us assume that she has never known a frozen lake. She has never known a frozen lake. What she's seeing is a hard layer, just like the earth. And she just gets onto it because her eyes are telling her that this is the truth. The truth is that this is a hard surface and I'm safe to just go on my horse. Halfway through, let us assume it breaks and she discovers that, oh, it is actually not a hard surface. It is it's a breakable surface and there is water underneath. Oh, maybe it's the water which has frozen to make it a hard surface because of the temperature. This has only come about later. So this is how we can understand the limitations of fact-based inquiries, just as you have rightly said. But the benefits are that as much as we want to kind of live simple kind of lives around us, it helps us to, for instance, if I check my blood pressure on a daily basis, it gives me a measure, and that's a benefit. So this is how it can help. So, but at the same time, there are limitations. But who is keen to research truth, and what are the hindrances to research truth? Let's look at it. Scientists are obviously fact checkers. Lawyers and judges are also fact checkers. Spiritual seekers are the ones who are actually interested in the truth. So please understand, therefore, the difference between fact and the truth. Fact, I'll have to differentiate them too, as fact is something which is measurable and which is perceived by the senses. Truth is beyond that, and we have already explained, identified what truth is. Somebody has already nicely said, truth is something which is constant across time, space. Religion is institutionalized and it is not evolving as such, particularly the book-based kind of religions. And therefore, they're not research-oriented. Hence, followers of religions are not researchers unless they free themselves from the impositions of the conditions over there. If I was a Charvaka, I would actually side the spiritual seeker rather than a follower of religion. The reason being, at least the spiritual seeker is in the pursuit of truth. Whereas a follower of religion is actually stuck there, that this is the only truth and nothing but the truth. Okay. And the hindrances for research of truth are dogma, religion, fear of expression, and intolerance towards others' understanding of truth. So why is it important? I think this is important because our dharmas are our dharmic traditions have been seekers. They were not fixed. They didn't kind of say that, okay, we identified the truth and this is where matter ends. Ours is not such a tradition. So we are true researchers. Nyaya Shastra, obviously, a lot of you know anyway. I'm just giving you this link here, which is that Nyaya Shastra obviously considers all the four pramanas, the Pratyaksha, Anumana, Upamana, and Shabda. So those who don't know, I think it's for them, I'm going to just give a little explanation. So Pratyaksha Pramana is nothing but what we have already discussed about our senses identifying certain things, perceiving. If my eye sees it, then it is there. Anumana is where, for instance, there is the classical example is when there is smoke seen behind the hill, I know that there is a fire. And how did I know that? Because in the past, when I was young, I have seen fire and smoke coming out of fire. Therefore, I know that if there is smoke, there is fire. So that is Anumana. Upamana is the comparison, where, for instance, if I was to explain what Himalayas are like, and I have never seen Himalaya, a mountain, but I have seen a hill in my village. So I'm explaining to him that it's like what you have seen as a village, your village hill. It's the same thing, but it's a taller one, and so on. So there is a comparison there. And Shabda is just as the expert opinion that we spoke about in the modern research hierarchy. It is the experts who have given the information, the wisdom. So the seers, the rishis, they were the ones who experienced it, and they are now giving you the wisdom from their experience. Shabda is typically referred to what is mentioned in the Vedas. So the Vedic knowledge is considered as the verbal authority among most of the darshanas. In fact, Shabda can also be considered to be expert opinion as long as they are Satyavadis. They are true to their research methodology and experience. That is also possible, apart from just being Veda alone. So, just to kind of...
Two more are there, right? Pratyahara and Anupalabdhi.
That comes in Mimamsa, but in Nyaya Shastra, Nyaya, it's the four that they refer to. In Mimamsa, the Anupalabdhi and what's the other one? Yeah. So just for people who are, let's do this simple exercise here. So how many dice do we see? Don't count the reflections. How many dice do we see?
6.
Anybody else?
6, sir.
Is anybody going to say 5 or 3? Unlikely, right? We are all definitely going to agree, no matter if this is shown to millions of people, we will all agree that there are only 6 dice. Agreed? Any protest? Anybody going to protest?
No, sir.
No. And that's the beauty of Pratyaksha Pramana. That's the beauty of objective evidence. It is unlikely that we disagree. So there is place for that. Okay. Now, can you see the wind?
There is a possibility, this is 6 becoming wrong, there is a possibility if some dice are there behind it.
No, we're not looking at it at the, it's very simple. What you
why
see is what you...
Why Pratyaksha cannot be taken as a pramana? is the reason that there is a possibility in Pratyaksha Pramana that there is a possibility of having dice behind it, which this dice is covering it.
Fair enough. We looked at the limitations of fact-based inquiries earlier. We'll cover in that. Yeah. So can you see wind?
Of course, we feel it, sir. Rather, we can see.
My question is, can you see wind?
We feel it.
No. No, sir.
We can't see.
Answer is no.
No.
Answer is no. Now the next question: how do we know there is wind?
The effects of the wind.
I think this goes back to your example.
Grass is moving, sir. We are observing grass moving.
Grass is moving. Grass is moving. So there is something moving the grass, and that must be the wind.
Correct.
Isn't it? So this is Anumana. Okay.
Not necessarily also some cake can happen.
Okay, so this is Anumana. This is as good as you can explain the and we are very much likely to agree as well. It's unlikely that we are going to disagree. Only thing we need to know is there's a concept, there's something called as wind. Let's say somebody who was only living in the outer space where there is no wind at all. For him, he doesn't have an understanding of what wind is. And when he sees this, he doesn't know what is happening. But we all have, through our own growing experience, it is but natural for us to know the idea of wind, and therefore we agree. There is, again, less likelihood that we disagree. Right?
Sir, as the grasses are moving, why it is saying that Anumana? Because unless the wind is there, grass will not move. It is a fact that wind exists there. It is not Anumana.
It's only Pramana.
No, all are Pramanas.
It's only Pramana, not Anumana.
When did it become a fact to you?
Unless wind is there, the grass will.
How did you know that there is wind?
Yeah, definitely there is a wind.
How do you know? How do you know there is wind?
Because the grass are moving.
When did you come to know that grass moves because of wind?
Without wind, grass will not move. That is the fact. Without wind,
how do
grass
you know
will
it's
not
a fact? Move. How do you know it's a fact?
It is a logical conclusion,
it is because please understand. It is because long ago, when you were a little child, you have already experienced what is called as wind, a concept of wind. Just like earlier example, long ago, you have known that smoke comes only when there is a fire. All right. So it is already established, and it is now an easy fact for you, but it has a background. It had its seed a long time back in your own mind.
But what I feel that it is not Anumana, sir. It is a practically Pratyaksha.
It's a Pratyaksha for you? How do you define Pratyaksha? Pratyaksha is, my question has to be, you need to be true to the question. I didn't ask you, can you feel wind? I said, can you see wind? See is done by eye.
No, we can't see that, I agree.
Exactly. Science is as specific as that. Research is as specific as that.
Sir, can I put some small doubt of myself, sir?
Okay.
I am Venkat. Sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. As you rightly said, coming to that conclusion part of it, my little bit understanding, a small ant has a capacity and ability to smell where is the granule of sugar on that floor. It can smell it. It has gone there. It has tasted it, and it invites the workers that there is some food or feeding for us. Let us search, and it will jump to a conclusion, or it will search for a solution and lid of that particular tin is half opened, so it again enter into it. It enjoys the fruit or the sugar granules, whatever it is. But unfortunately, it doesn't have a capacity how it is produced. Who is the farmer? What is the process? Does it mean that that existence of sugar granule is a myth, or it is not a pratyaksha pramana? Can we assume? No.
Sorry,
Science,
can you come back again? Can you say again, because I lost track somewhere.
You asked me to put this query at the last. I will do that, sir. Not shall I do now?
If it
No,
is
as referred by you, you say scientific
so
theory.
that bit I have understood. The ant and finally the farmer. Come to that.
Yes, sir. Ant doesn't know the production and the procedure and the process of the granule of sugar. Does it mean that that doesn't exist at all? Because that ant limited knowledge is restricted to taste only, and the ability to get the sugar granule spread on the floor. Does it mean that the theory behind it is not existent and it cannot believe that? Can we interpret it that is a wrong process of tallying the Vedic concept with scientific relevance? Sometimes scientific
But
relevance
who is actually tallying Vedic concepts with science?
Nice. As you rightly said, you were talking about the science wanted the only material evidence and the lawyers. There are certain things which are beyond our human capacity, which has happened. Then the science tried to explain it in one form or the other. Am I right, sir?
Yes and no. See, more and more things get complicated. That is where we need to learn to simplify matters as well.
Yes, sir. Yes. Of course, I am putting this out of my ignorance only.
No. I'm sure there's a lot of thinking going on behind what your question, your point. I'm so glad that we have been able to kind of go beyond just normal one-dimensional thinking here, which is fascinating. The only reason I'm unable to kind of spare too much time is I am conscious of the time that we have for now, and I need to do justice to the
sir, if I am short, taking your own example of that side, the lady sitting on the horse never found that the ice can freeze, nor she had a knowledge that ice is frozen somewhere on some part of the earth. And it's fine. It doesn't mean that ice water cannot condense and form a layer of sheet of ice. That is wrong. Our ignorance has limited to that extent only. But the ultimate truth is ice can be frozen, and unless she fall into the trap, she has realized that ice can be frozen. That is a wrong concept.
Now I actually understand your concept better. Thank you for clarifying it. I think
sorry
your
to
point is very valid. Thank you.
Sorry to interrupt you. I know it's we need to be time conscious, but I think what the sir is talking about is more like a cause, right? When he talked about how that granule came there, it's a cause. Someone has manufactured it. How that lake got frozen, that's a cause. But for that lady, the truth is, she felt that it was a hard surface. She can walk on it. We see that wind is moving the grass. How that wind was created, whether someone shook it, whether there was an earthquake, whether there was a huge wind, we do not know. What we are saying is we saw it.
But sir, I'm sorry.
Let's finish there. I understood. No, what the earlier Mahodaya was saying, beyond the concept, is saying that there's so much available out there which we don't know.
Yes.
We can only perceive a little bit.
Yes. Unknowing cannot be a truth or false, sir. That's my point.
There's so much beyond what we perceive, and that is where fact-based knowledge tends to be limited, and we can't just make that to be the only truth and
yes,
nothing.
Exact.
Wonderful. Yeah, Rajgopalanji, please go ahead if you want to say something. Or
So
shall
that
we
is the
just
reason,
leave,
one second,
leave
that is the
Please
reason
continue. In
why,
the end, we can discuss. In the end, we can
yeah,
discuss
we'll come
because
back. We'll
you'll
come
be
back
held
at
up
the end.
in between otherwise.
Yeah, we'll come back at the end. Thank you. Okay, because I can sense that it's as good as it can be. We'll lose the links as well. So earlier I have shown you the dice, and we agreed there are 6 dice. Later I actually showed you the moving grass, and we agreed that there is wind. We had no doubt whatsoever. Now, where is mind located? As a doctor, as a psychiatrist, I'm asking, show me where mind is located.
Located everywhere.
No.
In any human being.
According to
It is
what,
consciousness,
according
sir.
to
Consciousness.
Cerebellum is the mind, sir, which
No.
coordinates things.
No, not at all.
No. It is complete individual.
Somebody said mind is there everywhere. Mind
It is
there.
consciousness, sir.
Okay. So whatever it is. Now let me talk about the medical model. According to our medical model, if I do a brain scan, will I find mind? No. If I do a blood test, will I find mind? No. If I dissect the brain after post-mortem and search for mind? No. Then how do I even say mind? There is a mind. We all say my mind is not working well, or my mind is fantastic. So from a medical model, mind is nothing but networking of all the areas of the brain, and it leads to a thought process, and it also leads to emotional states. Okay, so that is where psychology comes in, and that is why as psychiatrists we are unable to kind of detect depression or schizophrenia or any mental illness. We can't do a blood test. Neither can we just do a brain scan and identify, oh, this person is depressed or this person has schizophrenia. We can't do that. Okay. But very interesting, isn't it? For a cardiologist, there should be a heart, and heart can be found. For a neurologist, he works with the brain can be found. Can you kindly stay muted, please? And so like that, there is a substratum for everybody. But for a psychiatrist, I don't have a mind, but I'm practicing psychiatry. That's because we all agree that there is mind. Although we can't see it, we don't even know where it is located. We agree that there is a mind. There is no dispute there also. The concepts may vary, that some may say mind is outside my body in one of the koshas, and a medical model where we would say that mind is nothing but the networking. But we all agree, irrespective of the differences, we agree that there is a mind. Now this is a little more tricky than the wind, because wind we had no dispute. Mind, we are having a dispute of the concept of mind, although we agree it to be there. Now look at the difficulty we will have about Atma. If mind itself was disputable, Atma is completely disputable. Now, people will say, I know I have Atma. I don't agree with that. We're talking from a research point of view here. Do you know you have Atma as per research? Can you smell it, taste it? No, you can't. Can you think with Atma? No, you can't. Because by definition, Atma itself has none of these anyway. Yet we talk about Atma a lot of the times when it comes to spiritual research. How do we do that? Objective research has no place in spiritual research. If anybody wants to do objective evidence-based research to establish the presence of Atma or presence of God, he'll only be fooling himself for time immemorial. As long as the Atma exists, so long will nobody be able to identify it with objective evidence. Why is that? The definition says so. That Atma has nirguna. It is indriya gochara. If the definition itself is that, it cannot be, which therefore means we can only do spiritual research through subjective evidence-based methodology. And that is what the rishis have done by going inwards, or the various kind of evolved souls have established their understanding of the Atman and the studies around it through their own inward journeys, right? Now, my job is to also kind of give you more evidence in support of this. So we'll look at modern research methods that have gone around in subjective spiritual research. Some have been done knowingly, some were done unknowingly. So one is past life regression therapy. Past life regression therapy is nothing but it's like one of those kind of psychotherapies where hypnotic techniques are employed to allow a client to go deep into a state of relaxation. And they're asked a question, go back to the first time ever you had this experience. And that client may actually go back in not just this life, it could be past lives as well. And they may also be able to kind of see themselves in the out of body, in the subtle body, the Sukshma Sharira state of traveling in between lives in the cosmic journey. It may all sound absurd, but you need to read books by Dr. Brian Weiss, Michael Newton. Those are the two people there. They both are, one is a psychiatrist and another is a psychologist. And I myself have conducted past life regression therapy on a few clients as well. And I can, therefore, I have my own evidence for that too. Okay. Now, I can do it on one client and that client can make up stories. There's a possibility that they may fantasize, oh, I'm doing this, oh, it's so wonderful, I'm seeing divine light and all that. But if not just 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000 lakhs of clients in different geographical settings undergoing this method with different therapists, and if they had no previous understanding of this, if they are all saying similar things, then the evidence gets stronger. Okay. So if people are interested, please read books by these authors. So Brian Weiss's books, they are very fascinating.
I'm getting a doubt, sir.
Experience.
What is this fact
by Dr. Raymond Moody? We'll come back to it later, please. If you don't mind. If you don't mind, we'll come back to it later. Then we have near-death experiences. Near-death experiences were researched by Dr. Raymond Moody, and he has also done a fantastic job. He's a psychiatrist too. And person who had, in the olden days, if somebody has a heart attack, they would just die. But nowadays we can resuscitate them. We're able to bring them back to life. There's some who may have lost their life for a moment, few seconds, couple of minutes. And in that time, they were able to have an out-of-body experience. So Dr. Raymond Moody interviewed a lot of them, and among them, those who have had those out-of-body experiences were able to narrate their accounts, and they all had beautiful spiritual experiences of immortality, sensing that they are immortal, and it has changed life for a lot of them as well. They have started seeing life in a very different way. So second is near-death experiences. Third is reincarnation studies by Dr. Ian Stevenson. Dr. Ian Stevenson is also a psychiatrist, and he has done research on the way his methodology was that he would actually interview children. He's already done a lot of research by then across the world, and he has already established connections. So he had this idea to what he would call as reincarnation studies, where if somebody identifies in the world, I have a boy who seems to be saying that he had a past life. So Dr. Ian Stevenson will go to interview him, that boy or a girl, go to speak to their parents, current parents, go and speak to the parents or any family that they say are related to their past life, go to that village or the town and so on, interview them, and also interview the child several years later again, just to look at the consistency. And that's again amazing research work done by Dr. Ian Stevenson. So as I said, all these books are there for people interested in studying, reading them. Dr. Raymond Moody's book is Life After Life. Michael Newton's is Life Between Lives. 20 Cases Suggestive of Reincarnation by Ian Stevenson, and Brian Weiss's books. Now, the reason I put Bhagavad Gita there is there's a lot of consistency in concepts already mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, as well as concepts related to in these books. Particularly, they talk about karma, they talk about punarjanma as in reincarnation. The word karma is used as its own. They talk about cosmic states, the soul, and actually there are a lot of parallels that you can see which are consistent. Now my point here is there is so much consistency in subjective research findings of the ancient times as described in Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita particularly, and current findings as described in these various methods of studies. Okay, so this is how we can appreciate and appraise subjective research. Now, having established the link between current and ancient methods and findings of, let's call it, spiritual research, I want to now, already I have asked this question previously, I want to show you that yes, there was a very similar method to what we described earlier. And Mr. Sastry has nicely pointed out how questions were asked, literature search was done before, and it was discussed among peers and so on, and it existed even in the ancient times. And we have a research paper published by Mr. Bhattacharya and Loho Chowdhury, Some Communication Thoughts Through Jaina Philosophy. And later they have published another work talking about the Vedic philosophy as well. So it's not just about Jaina, but the ancient times. So they had, apparently there were stages in the olden days. Taram, Sutaram, Tartaram, Ramyaka, Sudamuditam. Taram is a stage where the topic is identified, the research question is identified. Then the approval of the supervisor is obtained, and determination of the methodology and what possible research design has to be used. Then Sutaram, the initial inference through review of existing works. So they've already done the literature work, literature search. And then Arthapati, they come with hypothesis or the research question. Then Tartaram, collection of data, comparison, analysis, and interpretation of the data is done. Ramyaka, presentation of results in front of well-wishers. This is like a peer group review. And then Sudamuditam is Sadamuditam is submission of the work. We have intention to make it available for the larger benefit of the society. It just shows us that ancients had exactly or very similar methodology in their times as much as we have it now. Now, why is this topic relevant? For me, it is relevant because it actually makes me connect a long-standing observation that I have had. How have ancient Indians been quite sophisticated in their thinking ability, their debating styles? Where did they get that method or a system from? Such a system only exists if there is a prescribed or a certain fashion in which everyone was following. And when we say everyone, very interestingly, those who were practicing Astika Darshanas, those who were proposing Nastika Darshanas, whether it was Charvaka or Jaina or Bauddha, they were all following the same set of principles, this method, and they would debate with each other through a certain atmosphere, a debating atmosphere. For that to happen, there should be some background research methodology. Only then they would be behaving in this fashion in a structured society. So that for me is where the biggest lesson I have learned is, what are the characteristics of a society which is driven by research and development? It is open to discussion and debate, and they're flexible in their journey in pursuit of truth. They let go of preconceived notions, prejudice, and superstition. They're open to learn from all. They value others' opinions, and they make civilizational progress by building society based on the building blocks of truth. These are the characteristics of a society driven by research and development. Do we see this now in India? Yes. Do we see this in various parts of the world? Yes. Have we seen this in the medieval period in India? Yes. Have we seen this in the Dark Ages in Europe? No. No. In that time, there was a suffocation of scientific community by the religious dogma. It didn't happen. Did we have this in the Vedic times, pre-Vedic times, or post-Vedic times, whatever you may call it? Yes, yes, yes. So therefore, we had a continuum of this throughout. Whereas in Middle East, there was a disruption because of religiosity and old cultures have been eradicated. They vanished. But for us, we had the continuum. And this is what, again, another evidence for us to say that our society had been valuing research and development. And how do we establish if ancient India was research oriented? We know it from Bhagavad Gita. One of the things I'm referring to here is Krishna says, Ye me matamidam nityam anudishtanti manavaha. He says, Ye me matam. For a Paramatma or a Parabrahman, for him to even say Ye me matam, he doesn't need to say that. He can just say that this is the way it is. You want to agree or not, that's your choice. But this is my way or your no way. He doesn't say that. If you only have the research kind of bent of mind and the objectivity and ability to kind of accept others' opinions, only then you say, in my view. Okay. Then you see the in Shaddarshana Samuchaya, the concept of Vada is kind of mentioned here. Acharya Shishyayoho Paksha Pratipaksha Parigrahat Yaha Kathabhyasa Hetuho Syadasau Vada Udahritaha. So the concept of Vada is being mentioned here, and that's what I'm interested in. Concept of Vada is only to establish the truth between the two parties. They are not trying to manipulate to win. They only want truth to prevail. And they will come to this debate and the argument having done their own research, following the concept of truth only to establish the truth. Again, fascinating evidence for me to say that there was a method of systematic inquiry in the olden days. Mimamsa, as Prabhakar Mahodaya has already mentioned, Mimamsa uses an algorithmic approach to convey the Chodana instructions to be adhered to in the yajna without having to repeat the instructions again and again in different yajnas where it applies. How did they come with that systematic method? They've come up with an algorithm. I've already mentioned it once, and this is the rule I'm going to apply in wherever it's going to. I don't need to repeat myself. In Bhagavatam by Potana, I can't quote the exact padyam here, but he actually poses a question: who is God? And he says, Kondaru Kamamanduru, Kondaru Karmayanduru. He says, some say God is time, some say God is desire, some say God is karma, and some say God is Ishvara. When does somebody for a concept of God has the audacity to say such a thing? When there is that level of openness to research, come to your own conclusions, and have the freedom to express, I believe God is time only. Okay, fair enough, we respect you. I believe God is nothing but your own desires. Fair enough, we respect you. I don't agree, but I respect you. When is it possible? It is only possible when there is that research kind of atmosphere. In Arthashastra, as an example, like many other, Kautilya actually gives references of various people who have already kind of proposed various theories, and it is consistently maintained. He maintains this style throughout his writing. He talks about Narada, he talks about somebody else, and so on. He'll give about 6 or 7 names before, and then he proposes his views. When does it happen again? Only when he has done the literature search, he has raised the works, and then he is proposing his work. You look at poetics like Dhvanyaloka and Rasagangadhara, here as well, they display the ability to appraise a topic, propose their own, allow counter arguments, and make further arguments defending themselves. So it's a dialogue going on. When does it happen again? Again, when you have that research atmosphere. Natya Shastra as well, Bharata Muni quotes several references in compiling his own works. He also mentions what has been done in the past. In Niruktam, in grammar, you see the same kind of systematic approach where Yashkacharya also provides a methodical approach of mentioning criticism of his work and counter arguments. In Ashtadhyayi, there is an algorithm, an astonishing algorithm with finally a locking system, because the sutras, they just go one after the other, one leads to the other. They can actually kind of intermingle, one works with the other. But if it becomes like that, it will become an infinite possibilities. So towards the end, he actually brings in a locking system where that completes the process. It has to have a lot of thinking behind, or a genius, only a genius can actually come up with this kind of a fashion of an algorithm, which finally has to be stopped somewhere. And there should be a method to how you do it. In Chandas as well, you know how mathematically they are structured. So as per the Ganas, for instance, I've made this observation. I don't know if anybody has. If you're reciting Bhagavad Gita, I feel that the initial parts are all going okay in one fashion, and you reach a crescendo by the 11th chapter, Vishwarupa Sandarshana Yoga, when your chanting takes you into that state of zone because all the meter used in 11th chapter in Vishwarapa Sandarshana Yoga for most of the shlokas is on the lines of, for instance, what would be one of the shlokas, for instance? Anyway, so I feel that it reaches a crescendo. Now, for the author, it's like a musical musical composition where he had nicely kind of decided where he's going to give the best buzz of the musical interludes. And that's how I felt Bhagavad Gita was composed. Possibly he knew where to bring that maximum kind of peak experience at Vishwarupa Sandarshana Yoga, because that's where the entire beauty of or the aura of the divine is described. And that's the crescendo, that's where it has to be. It's like, you know, if Bahubali is made and Rajamouli would say to the music director, I need the best pieces of music which gives the best buzz at these particular places. And this is how I felt about Bhagavad Gita when it comes to the 11th chapter. And for me, that is a system as well. Somebody has actually kind of seen it, how it should be done, and this is how it was constructed. And we know also evidence from the Sanskrit vowels and consonants, particularly the consonants, how each of them arise from a particular place. The Kantavyaha, Modhanyaha, Talavyaha, they all come from one after the other, right? They progress from back to the front. And there is a system there. How do you come up with a system if you don't have a research way of thinking? So I believe that I have shown you a range of subjects, fields where ancients have been able to kind of utilize the same methodology, whether it was grammar, poetics, dramaturgy, spirituality, economics. The same methodology had been used in various fields. What is the logical conclusion we make? We come to conclude that that is how our ancients have always seen life, and they have provided the best possible research output, having made sense. They didn't just make things out of nothing. We can therefore safely say that we can trust what they have proposed. We can trust what they have written. We can appraise the differences. The various darshanas actually are different. Sankhya is obviously going to talk about things which they're not agreeable with Mimamsakas, for instance. Or Vaiseshikas may say something very different. Or even for that matter, Bauddhas would say things differently. Jainas would say differently. But the fact that they had the freedom to express gives me particularly the confidence that I can go through all this material, all these scriptures with a great deal of confidence without having to worry whether it was dogmatic or a superstition. I see it as pure science. And that is where I would like to conclude here. I know it was again a long session like the other day, but I hope I didn't allow you to get tired or confused anywhere. If I did, please accept my apologies. Thank you.
ధన్యవాదములండి. In fact, the lecture has been interactive, so question of getting bored doesn't arise at all. So therefore, everybody is in fact glued onto the screen. I could see. Now, anybody wants to ask any question? The forum is open.
Yeah, Satyam Reddy Garu, please go ahead.
Sir, you have explained the research methodology in modern systems. Can you, in nutshell, tell what is the exact methodology in our ancient periods?
Oh, that will
What
need
is
a
the
lot.
methodology in our ancient periods?
That will need another session. So we have a different system. I think not much different, but we have more ways of appraising truth than the current objective evidence-based science. So current objective evidence-based science is what is called as pratyaksha pramana. In the ancients, along with that, also had other ways of appraising truth. As I said, Anumana was one, Upamana, Shabda, and if you go to Mimamsakas, they would also include two other ways, Arthapatti and Anupalabdhi. So that's as much as I would mention. That's the concept of appraising truth, which was already there, and various darshanas followed the same system throughout. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Okay,
Venkat?
Yes, sir. Can I ask
go
this few questions with my little ignorance only? I am putting this before you, sir. You wanted material and factual evidence to prove what is scientific theory to be persuaded further, isn't it, sir? Anything should be based on evidence and based on the fundamental theories, isn't it, sir?
No, I'm not too sure if we are agreed on that. What I would say is anything, whether it is subjective or objective, research, there should be a research methodology.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. When that is so, my small question, sir. Bhagavad Gita was recited by the Lord Krishna himself, and the only listener was Arjuna, and one man sitting on the top of the Radha Chakra, Hanuman, and nobody others has listened to it. How this exact fundamental word to word came to incarnation of incarnation to reach us today, except one man sitting at the kingdom, Sanjaya, who had the third eye vision, who can recite everything to Dhritarashtra, and most probably he might have written, manuscripted it, or he might have told his disciple. Except that, how can we find evidence that Lord Krishna has spoken this 100% based on this Bhagavad Gita available right today after a long research?
Absolutely valid point. But as much as I understand, I believe Vyasa was also able to cosmically perceive the Shruti.
Then there is no evidence there. Then we are failing in our subject. We don't have any evidence for that.
No, I don't know. Others who are aware of it may.
Then Vyasa has recited to Ganesha and they put it in writing black and white.
At the time of the transcendental knowledge that was being transmitted from Krishna to Arjuna.
Yes, sir.
Others may who know this matter better, if based on what they know, did Vyasa directly perceive the same knowledge at the same time as Sanjaya?
That is the $1 million question, sir.
No, if anybody else has any comments on that. If not, I honestly don't know. But it's a valid point. What you mentioned is a valid point.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, anybody else?
It appears that Vyasa, Sanjaya, and Barbarik and Hanuman, Arjuna, these are the people who know the Gita, right from the Krishna heart.
So directly, that's what I was my
Directly,
question.
because Krishna has given the powers to Barbarika to see what is happening at Kurukshetra. And Arjuna and Anjaneya Prakshaksha Pramana, they both heard directly and cosmically heard by, just like nowadays TV theory is there, and Sanjaya and Vyasa.
Yeah, that's what my understanding was as well. So now I'll answer that question. Now that thankfully somebody has mentioned, because I'm not an expert, I haven't read Mahabharata. So Vyasa, once let us say he had obtained the transcendental knowledge. Let's go back to the 4 pramanas again. I have shown. So among them we have Shabda as a pramana. Shabda is expert opinion. So now Vyasa, having been the seer, he's the drashta, he has actually seen it and he's transmitting it. So therefore that becomes his subjective evidence. Understand? So this is how you appraise that. And it is valid, therefore. Satyam Reddy garu, you raised your hand again.
Yes, so small. This K.K. Bhattacharya has did this research. He did as per ancient approach of method of research in communication thoughts in Jainism.
Yeah.
The theories that are being explained in Bhagavad Gita are nothing but theories that are explained in Upanishads and Brahma Sutras. And Brahma Sutras and Upanishads were existing before Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, that's right.
So the theories are known to Vyasa earlier himself.
Yeah, that's true. But in terms of Vyasa being the conduit, again, we're looking at Vyasa being the conduit, where Vyasa was able to kind of transcendentally get that knowledge, and therefore, as a drashta, he was able to communicate. And our own appraisal, it fits into the Shabda as the pramana. Satyam Reddy garu, your question, please, again.
Sir, is K.K. Bhattacharya did his research as per ancient research methodology on the topic communication thoughts in Jainism?
No. So they studied the ancient methodologies and they found this. They are conveying it. They haven't done research based on. I mean, that research can be done by you, me, and anybody.
Okay, sir.
Anybody can do this research, but we need to have the right kind of framework, right kind of setting for that.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Rajagopal ji.
Excellent. Your talk was very lucid and very informative. There were some questions for which how I perceive and how, as a researcher in science and technology, I will be telling with the modern research. Basically, I'm a super specialist on the electron microprobe side. So you can understand the high level, high energy fields where we work on that one. As far as the question comes, how the person has retained. See, everybody knows that Bhishma, when he was on the bed of arrows, they completely researched, and then finally our Yudhishthira says that we have not noted on how we'll remember. Then he says, Krishna, can you tell me? He says, even Krishna cannot retain it. Then Krishna says that the Nakula Saga, they are having the Spatika Mala by which can absorb all the vibrations and then retain it, and then it can be excited and it can give back the thing. So the thing is that as per the modern atomic theory, what we are considered now is that with the different vibrations, what we speak or something, that remains in the space. See, the thing is that I am not able to see because I am not having a filter, the sensor to receive it. For example, if I say I am using an infrared spectroscopy, I will receive only the infrared energy. If I am using any optical thing, that will be receiving only visible light spectra only. So what we want to say that the Vyasa might be having that what you call the receiving capacity to assimilate the thing which is there in the space. So far, I am not considering, it doesn't mean it was not existing. See, you have spoken something, I was as understood. I am speaking, you are hearing. But the same thing, if I say, when the Sanjay was telling, the many were making, the atheist group were making a lot of fun, how we could see and all those things. When the television has come, telephone has come, everything, now they are agreeing everything. So the question is that all the time, the science, many a times, it cannot prove the thing which is abstract. That is why in science, if you see in mathematical modeling, we always go with the abstraction, then we go to the axiom, then we are having postulate, then we are having theorems, then we are having the proofs. So the postulates, axioms, and statements, they don't have any pramana. We cannot say it is there. So the thing is that what I tell you, even with the modern science, we have to go like this. If you go into the deeper down of the topological concept of how to interfere, how to infer a thing, or using the AI techniques, or using the operational research modeling also, where we optimize the things. So we have to nullify certain things and receive only the thing, what I want. But that doesn't mean that I am omitting the thing, because my sensor, what I am capable, as you and me, maybe the very ordinary person, we can see only visible region. Means any object, if we illuminate it, then only I can see. We cannot see infrared region. So we require an instrument that can filter and put it into the visible region and make us conceive. So that the instrument, the sensor, what it was there in the modern science, possibly they already had it. Number one.
Okay.
And another one, I would like to say that you have talked about Charvaka and linked with the Nyaya Shastra. So what I feel that one is they are already divided into an Astika Darshana and Nastika Darshana, Shad Astika and this one. So in that way, what happens when there is a Astika Nastika difference is that then naturally the overlapping will be very difficult. Only one Siddhanta, only one unique Siddhanta, Vedanta Darshan, where the Ramanuja's philosophy, Vishishta Advaita had a little bit of overlap with the Astika as well as Nastika. Otherwise, the different philosophies were not, it was clearly discriminated with the boundaries. So we cannot mix up the two issues. And as far as you are asking that how the research methodology was there, that is actually Tarka, the one of the audience, she has rightly pointed out. So the Tarka means what it says, it is not just an argument. It is the way of defending the thing with the justifiable reasons. So basically, Darshana Shastra itself is the proof of existence of the research in the good olden times. Otherwise, for ultimate motive being salvation, or called as moksha or charanagati. But why we had Shat Darshana? So the difference in Sankhya goes with the numerals, whereas Nyaya goes with the other pramanas. Whereas the other methods, what we have followed, it has got all the variation, but ultimate truth, everybody wants to accept that this is the truth. But the way it has been analyzed, interpreted by the individual is varying. So that itself proves that we had a very good research methodology with our sages and our great sages. And if you would have read about the Leelavati, which is much more much more later concepts, wherein if you see that they conceived the idea of the 3-dimension and 4-dimension, everything by sitting at one place. So that is also one of the great contributions of our researchers. Even today, we could not deny the fact that what they have done using the good olden methods, it has come to be true. Now, regarding the one thing, what you someone asked me, I don't know, I'm not remembering, the interpretation when it goes, many a times interpretation cannot be done directly. So that is why in mathematics, we use that those who are mathematical person, they can understand, or physics person, that we have the inductive logic and deductive logic. So simple, I will say that why we say Kula Gotra for seeing a boy, because it is some sort of a induction. Means his great grandfather was a nice person, very knowledgeable, very everything. His son was nice. His grandson should be nice. So his grandson should be nice. So this is how the logic goes, and that the Satya is proved taking into the evidence of the past. So and even if you go to the geoscience, we call one word is called as in geomorphology is one subject where you say present is the key. Present is the key to the past. But when you go to spirituality, past is the key to the presence. So the subjectiveness
In discrete, it cannot be there. It is the subjectiveness is actually quantified only. For example, one beautiful example I'll tell you, and then I'll stop myself because there are a lot of time is there. See, when you go with the Panchang, somebody was asking, I think our Prahlad Garu was himself was Prabhakar was. See, as far as the Panchang is concerned, you go to the Drik Panchang, you saw Vakya Panchang, when you go, it is a subjectiveness, more of subjectiveness introduced into it. Though it is a quantified, it has got some subjectiveness. Whereas when you go to the Kanida Panchang, and where now present day, the errors what can be done, because I am practicing for last 12, 13 years, the Vedic astrology with a scientific bias. So even you use the ephemeris calculations with the present day NASA's calculation, which has been distributed through the different Birla Planetarium. Calcutta is the nodal center from which we can get it. All those practicing astrologers can achieve it. So if you put those things, naturally you will find the differences. So the Surya Siddhanta at that time, what they are given is absolutely correct. I'm not saying denying, but as the time has changed, the way the continent Gondwana land is split into different parts and moved into different individual continent, originally it was the same continent. In the same way, our science, technology, everything is nothing but a subset of the superset called universal set called as Veda. So Veda is a science, but science is a part of that one. So science need not substantiate and give the evidences to prove that whatever the Vedic has been said. This is what my conclusion. Veda is supreme. We have to accept it. That's all.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Okay. So
one or two points I would like to bring to your notice. One is Jabali versus Rama's discussion in Yuddhakanda, Aranyakanda. Yuddhakanda, no, Ayodhyakanda only. End of Ayodhyakanda, right? End of Ayodhyakanda. Jabali talks about Charvak Siddhantam only. And Rama counters it with Satyam. What is Satyam? So following the word of Father is the Satyam. That's what he says. No? The truth he talks about there. Rama talks about the truth, importance of the truth there. That's one point. The second point I want to bring to the notice is the recent the quantum mechanics and quantum science and God particle. What are these things?
Okay. Can I? Okay. In case author is the speaker is ready to answer. Okay. Otherwise, I would like to say some words. No problem.
Okay. Say.
After Bhishma died, then he recited to Dhritarashtra. Is it correct? That's what I got. Or he started. He stopped for 10 days. On 10th day, when Bhishma expired, then Dhritarashtra asked, what happened? He tell me. So 10 days story he told him. And then he started telling right then onwards. Next remaining 8 days. So that is the one point. And not only this Bhagavad Gita, Vishnu Sahasranama also by Bhishma. That was not heard by Vyasa, but Vyasa has written it. So that's how somebody was telling in WhatsApp groups, the tape recording system is available at that time itself. So it was recorded.
Heard about this Patikam owned by our Nakula and Sadeva. They was having the tendency to retain the energies.
Yes.
So even in modern science, also with the transfusion, with the duping of the different silicon thing, we can have disperse the energy levels from the one band to the another band in scientifically. And because of that expansion of the band of the particular element, we can incorporate the different energies of that wavelength to get into it. So why I'm telling all these things is that the science as actually literally is following the Vedic concepts. Only thing they have not made the name like quantum physics or quantum mechanics or linear algebra and like that. That word they have not used, but everything, if you see, go through a little bit deeper into the Kapila Muni's this one, and like equivalent to the Panini, there is a Tulkapiya's explanation, which is more than almost 8,000 slokas, which is been given. We can understand that all these concepts which has been documented in a different way, but the nomenclature has been given by the Western person. So we would like to think that it is there. PV is equal to RT. This has been proved by the one of the Kapila Muni's sloka is there. In Tamil it is there. How much pressure you put it on that one, there is an optimum one beyond which it cannot be done condensation. So the PV is equal to RT, temperature increases, all these things have been told, but unfortunately there was a big hiatus in our thinking, knowledge, wisdom, everything after the invasion by the two great powers, and that has left us with full of vacuum, and there was a big yawning gap between the persons who are following the Western thinking. Means the scientists, means today what I'm talking is they're all Western influenced persons. Though I am also a scientist for 39 years, but I now, after realizing, after going through all the detail, now I realize that all those things, what it is that it is there in our Vedic Sanskrit. Already it has been proven. Only thing I could not understand Sanskrit. I could not understand the script, what has been written by Desikacharya or something. That doesn't mean that it was not existing. So I was ignorant because I was not knowing it. So what I want to say that it is a ocean. Veda has got everything. What is you are discovering, you are inventing, whatever you are saying, they are already there in Veda. You are not doing anything beyond Veda. This is what. But here the subjectiveness is coming. As our speaker was telling, without pramana, without seeing, without sensing, without this one, I cannot accept the scientific fact. Yes, science wants all these things. Whereas spirituality, Atma, Paramatma, if you talk about the Advaita, the Dvaita, Triguna, how the Chit, Chaitanyam and body, how merges with the Ishvara. This is the difference between the Vashishta Advaita and the Dvaita. So the question is that Advaita. So we have to think, but ultimate truth is again the salvation only. That is moksha. So the moksha is indefinite, you cannot define it. They say it is a divine bliss which cannot be quantified. Whereas all these pramanas and other things are those which are being conceived. Because good olden days, they give the example in Veda, the earthen pot. Earthen pot can be modified in a different way. Mud is the same, but the pot can be different. It was already filled. Can you say the empty pot? We cannot say empty pot because it is already filled with air. So Vayu is there. So how you can say it is empty? So these are the argument. Tarka Shastra is wonderful, and Darshana Shastra is taken care of. And when we read all those things, our innovative thinking will develop. So that innovative thinking, we have to have a hand in gloves. We have to move with the modern concepts as well as the Vedic concept without rejecting any of the concept given that one as a what you call vague, or it is just a myth and all those things. There is nothing called myth. There is nothing called fact. There is nothing called satya. There is nothing called. So Gita clearly says satya, asatya is variable. You come and depending upon the place, situation, time, zone, concepts, where civilization, it varies. So the thing is that Sanatana Dharma, when we want to follow, we have to accept what it was told by our thing through as a Shabda. And pramana and other things are only the substantiating element to understand us. So it doesn't mean that gold, if it is there inside a quartz vein, because I am a geoscientist, I can say the gold doesn't come as a discrete form on the top of the earth. It is inside the quartz vein or something where you can see. If it is going to glitter and yellow, then we assume that it is a gold. But when you break it and see it could be a pyrite also, which is called the fullest gold. So the question is the color, complexion, everything. The pramana doesn't give all the time the proof, but the intrinsic quality, intrinsic character, intrinsic guna, that is the ratio of the sattva, rajas. This is the thing which proves the science also as well as the spirituality. So the question is that wonderful explanation given by the speaker, and it is a thought-provoking, but at the same time, there is, at least as a nuclear scientist, after publishing hundreds of papers, including research paper, everything, I can conclude and say with my own experience and my feeling, Veda is supreme, and within that one, believe or not believe is our question. Ishvara is there, one school that is Astika believes. Ishvara is not there, that is by the Nastikas. But both are included in the Darshana Shastra. And Darshana Shastra is the preamble and the base of interpretation of our Veda. With this, I would like to say that we have to think rationally. When you think rationally, we should not reject anything on the way. Accept, keep it, but don't say it is useless. There is nothing called, even a pin is not a useless thing in the world. So everything is useful. What I want for a given time and project or the given situation, I am using it. So that selective leaching of the resource available will not make or defy the conclusion as an exception that Veda is a myth or Vedic Dharma is wrong. Ishvara is not existing, is a totally a wrong concept. There is some supernatural, supreme power divine. You call by Vishnu, you call by Shiva, anything you want. But the thing is there, some supreme bliss is there. That supreme energy, we call is a Savitur in our Veda also. Savitri is the thing which is conceiving and thing. We are exactly the replicas of Savitri, and Savitu is there. Without Savitu and Savitri, there is nothing is existing. This is how I conclude. And thanks a lot for giving me an opportunity to speak something. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Just one more point. Srinivasa, when you're talking about the mind, location of mind, I got the idea, the fact-finding machines of the interrogators. What does it find out? When that fellow is talking, they put a machine on his head, and he is by the vibrations or these things, they find that he is telling lie or not. Lie detectors. What is the lie detectors? Are they not seeing the mind?
No, they are not.
What they're doing?
It's not.
Lie detectors, how the lie detectors are doing?
You know, when the mind is numb, then some truth.
I will see. Yes or no is
Similarly,
not the point.
a person who is drunk, he speaks truth because his consciousness differs from the natural way, and then he goes to the originality will come when that particular when he's away from his consciousness.
So that lie detector is not.
It is just like that only. It is just like making your nerves and nerve centers, whatever are there in the brain, and they are just deviated so that only they tell truth because the all extra thoughts will vanish away.
So with this, what we think of is we are first thing, we are not thorough on all our shastras.
Yes.
We didn't read all our shastras, and it's not many shastras are not available to us now to read first. Even the available shastra we didn't read completely. Without that, we are discussing so many things, and with a faith that Vedas are Pramanam, that is correct. And it is in any possibility, in any argument, Vedas are proving to be correct because they are somehow they are giving that word, terminology in Vedas is giving a meaning to whatever science is finding out now. That's why the Vedas Pramanam, nobody could dispute it. That's why you have to believe it. So Vedas Pramanam is Pramanam, that is faith we have got, and that is proving it also time and again whenever a science subject is new subject is coming. And it is a proof also that the same scientist after 10 years is saying that what I told earlier is wrong. Now I'm telling I found out new thing. And after 10 years, he will find out nothing. And we are seeing also. Earlier, the current used to pass through wire. Now it is passing through air. And we don't know. Tomorrow it will pass like Atma. Atma is nothing but passing with us that.
I think
we may be able to reach that level of some time. We don't know.
A couple of
So 10 years, 15 years back, we could not have this type of technology. I spent around 50 lakhs rupees for this conference, this type of conference. Now with few hundred rupees, I am spending doing this conference now. The same conference in 2003, I had to arrange for a discussion between Australia and USA and India. I had to spend around 15 to 20 lakhs in 2002. So the technology, how much is changing after this electronics is discovered? It is leaps and bounds. It is going like that. And so tomorrow we may prove that Atma is there and in this shape. We don't know.
Yeah, I think. Am I audible?
What we do now is
let us close.
Not that we will do Janaganamana, Prarthana and Janaganamana. After that, continue the discussion.
No, it's almost over. We can close. provided Srinivasa Sastry Garu is accepted.
Am I audible? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just, I think it's good to conclude it. I think we need to understand there are subtleties in our discussion. One is that the understanding here is about finding the required framework on which we need to appraise information. We are not concluding as to what is true and what is not true. We are only talking about what is the methodology of appraising information. I think that is the point of discussion today. And it should only pave way for us to come back to, I think somebody made a very valid point. Our ancients have been following all the systematic methods up until recently, and we need to restart it again. And for us to restart again, we need to first of all pay respect to what has happened, give them the required dignity and what research output that has happened in the past. But we can't just stop it. We can't just say that research is done and it's no more required. It's not the case either. So we need to continue. Example is Pandit Jagannatha Pandita was the last one who actually was well-renowned poetic. And after that, there has been nobody as pronounced as that. And if we don't explore anymore, then our advancement as a society, as advancement as a continuum of dharmic society is going to stop, and we won't be contributing to the world. So that is what today's